All right. 4. So again, Pizza, unless he has data that I'm not seeing here at a glance, does he have access to all the starting deck lists in that tournament? Because if he doesn't, again, he's still working with incomplete data and really small sample sets, so you can't really draw meaningful conclusions from it. So lots of Magic authors write things with bad, incomplete data all the time and try and draw conclusions that they shouldn't. Alright, anywho, 4-color Dreadhorde. This is pretty close to what we played the other day. I cut the one Miser Kaya we had in the main for a 3rd Paradise Druid, because Paradise Druid kept overperforming. We still don't have a foil Interplanar Beacon, that's sad. Basically, this is a Wildgrowth Walker deck with a bunch of value planeswalkers alongside Command the Dreadhorde to get your planeswalkers back again and again and again, as well as taking things from your opponent's graveyard that are also powerful and reasonable. This deck is very good against other mid-range and control decks, while struggling against things like Nexus of Fate and also occasionally having a hard time against things like red aggro. So let's go ahead and dive on in to some matches here and see how this goes. What are the suggestions, Brad? What's outdated about it? What do we feel is not good enough? No, I think Big Teferi is good. You want to cut a white source for a basic land? Why do I want a basic forest? Just because of Assassin's Trophy? So I have like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I cut a land, I'm going down to 8 white sources. There really isn't a ton of land destruction right now. Like, I get that the Japanese players in the MPL this week registered it, but that doesn't automatically mean that suddenly a ton of people show up and, like, play this deck. Nah, I think I want to keep Massacre Girl in the main deck. I added a Paradise Druid, yeah, but with the Paradise Druids, I only have 11 white sources. No, I'm just gonna go play Magic. I think Massacre Girl is fine. I think I want extra ways to be interactive. I think having a way for Command the Dreadhorde to be able to interact with the board is valuable. I also don't think I really want to add even more white spells to my deck, especially if people are telling me to cut white sources. Like, that seems like the inverse of what I want to do. My opponent plays a turn 1 basic mount and I just concede. They mulligan, let's keep. Perfect. Never didn't have it. Oh no. Oh no. Are they a Nexus of Fate deck? Nexus of Fate's a really hard matchup for this archetype. Gross. This deck is slow and not particularly interactive. It could be the Thief deck too, that's true. I think the Thief deck's probably bad for this deck too. The Thief deck generally plays a ramp spell in the first couple of turns. Wow, they are actually the Thief deck and just kept a really slow hand. Got it? Alright, so what do I want to get Frilled Mystics here? Good lord, what is in their hand?
I'm known for keep up the pace.
Sound like Stone Cold Nothing? Yeah, I was expecting to run my first spell into a counterspell. Just gonna let this happen.
I'm getting too old for this.
Because this doesn't bounce things. That's not the text box on this card.
No time for a break.
Why would I want to tuck, make an argument, have a discussion? I mean, like, do I think I'm... So you're saying you think I'm winning this game by aggroing them out? Like, I think that's assuming the wrong role. If I had a Time Raveler there, obviously we'd bounce it. But I think tucking aggressively there is assuming the wrong role in the matchup. I think we're just, like, in a position to, like, have a lot of stuff to go long, and there's no reason to not just go long. Is it crazy to trim a Command the Dreadhorde in this matchup just because it's probably kind of hard to resolve through Frilled Mystic, and they're definitely bringing in more counterspells post-board? I feel like I want to keep most of my bottom end. You think I want Elderspell? Just because of their Nissas? No, they usually don't play Tamiyo. I can see this being okay, because usually they have Hydrate Graces. Helps me dig to these. I have no idea, Rich. The opponent's deck isn't really an established archetype, so there's still a lot of variation in what people are playing in it. I know that lots of different people have been trying things on Magic Arena, but there hasn't really been, like, a big result for the archetype at a tournament that's, like, established, like, this is the norm. London Mulligans falling down, falling down, falling down. London Mulligans falling down now. Please, Watsy. Alright. Didn't brick and die at least. Oh-ho, we're halfway there. Oh-ho, living on a prayer. Take my hands and we'll make it, I swear. Do-do, be-do-do-do-do-do. And again, like, to the people in chat who are suggesting we bring cards in if you feel strongly about bringing in particular cards, be helpful, be constructive, be specific. Sideboarding is a one-to-one process. We're not just sitting here. We're not just sitting here adding random cards. Talk about what we're supposed to be cutting, why you feel we're supposed to be cutting those cards. Help me understand your thought process. Don't just shout random things at me because you think they might be good. So I assume Vraska's dead here.
I've suffered worse.
Maybe this isn't good enough. Maybe that could fit in an Elderspell. Leave a Paradise Druid in, especially on the play to ramp a little bit. Paradise Druid's pretty good on the play. Well, sure, but you didn't... So, again, Be Rich, Magic's a game that's about... sideboarding's 1-to-1, right? So, like, saying, sure, board the card in because Nissa is good, that's not actually helpful and constructive, really. That's not saying why it's better than the other things that we're playing. Maybe Narset's better than Vraska, although Vraska on the playoff Paradise Druid does kill their mana dork. Let's try this. Dreadhorde Butcher is a heck of a drug. I agree. Sand needs another green source, but hopefully Branchwalker's gonna help us find that. Negate, Melody. Yikes. And we're dead. Playing decks like this often makes them feel a lot less scary than playing against them, because there's definitely a very human response to playing against like decks like this, where like when you're on the other side of the table, it just feels like your opponent always has it, and then like you play on this side of the table and you get to really experience firsthand just like how clunky and awkward this deck is. You're just like, oh, this deck really isn't all that. Alright, they have a negate we know about, so we're not just going to jam the Vraska. Joseph Bro, thanks for the brand new tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Just want to work our way through to some more lands here. Maybe I'm supposed to keep the second Tamiyo? There's no real life gain in the deck. If you're looking to add life gain to the Super Friends deck, I'd recommend adding some Lyras, probably. That is the third Tamiyo, isn't it? Thanks, Joseph. Good to have you here. Yeah, I don't know. So, like, at the time I ditched the second Tamiyo, I notably didn't have a 6th land, which I think makes binning it correct. But it could definitely go either way there. Alright, well that just worked. Wasn't really expecting that to work. But I'll take it. I think I just dig for Wildgrowth Walker at this point, right?
my notes helpful?
Yep. So they have 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm gonna go ahead and shoot this because this way they need land plus their mass manipulation to take my stuff over. Yeah, we're gonna get manipulations here.
I follow the tracks of the wands.
Alive.
I mean, is that even true, dude? Like, okay, here's my, can I answer your question with the question? What on God's green earth does, what does that even do for me if what does that do for me by getting back a Command the Dreadhorde? I'm at 7. How does getting a Command the Dreadhorde back do anything meaningful for me?
My research has been compromised.
So how does Tamiyo do anything meaningful for me? What does that actually solve? How does it get me out of this situation? Because, like, if they have mass manipulation, I probably just can't win.
Being ruthless has its rewards.
Again, Magic's just not about, like, clicking random buttons. Like, you need to have a game plan.
Oh, I've done the hero thing.
Like, how do I get from point A to point B?
I won't forgive this.
Okay, so Jadelight, they do that, and then they just get their mass manipulation back, and I'm right back to square one. So, like, again, how does it actually solve the problem that I'm having? Like, if they have mass manipulation, I get back Tamiyo, they just take my next Tamiyo.
Only a fool stands in my way.
I guess if I down tick Tamiyo, they can't rebuy their manipulation. That's true. That's true. So, but that's not what you said, Jadelight. Nowhere at any point in any of the words that you typed did you point out that down ticking prevents you from doing that. And again, that's why discussing the whys are really important.
Now what?
I agree with you that makes sense when someone actually points out the why. The devil is in the details. That's the meaningful part that talks about why these are good plays versus mediocre plays. Alright, so I'm at 10, so I can get Jadelight, Tamiyo, Wildgrowth Walker. This is 5-9. Major Fill Mystic, sure. Yeah, playing this deck feels real bad. Playing these, let me rephrase, playing these mid-range matchups feels really bad. Like, when we played the mirror with this deck too, it felt really atrocious. Just like, the games are just like all about these really big swings. There's not a lot of comeback from like mass manipulations and stuff like that. This deck does have a lot of exceptionally clunky and expensive spells to make it bad against Roll Mistake. That's definitely true. Yeah, I agree, B-Rich. I mean, like, mid-range games of Magic are, like, almost always an arms race, right? And, like, mass manipulation is, like, Command the Dreadhorde was like, alright, we're going over the top of everything, and then, like, mass manipulation is like, hold my beer. I'm gonna attack here, because we're probably gonna get Deafening Clarion next turn anyways. I guess attacking is bad against 4-mana Teferi here. Are you getting absorbed? Syncopate, sure. This is tapped, so it doesn't matter. I mean, they have creatures that can pressure our planeswalkers, though. I've definitely seen more syncopates in the last week than I've seen in a long time. Anecdotal, but... Before anybody asks why I'm not playing the second Massacre Girl, she's legendary. So unless they kill this, we're not playing the second one. The goal is to cast Command the Dreadhorde and get a bunch of stuff back. How is Syncopate good against Phoenix? Most of the time the Phoenix deck doesn't actually cast Phoenix. Well, Rekindling Phoenix loses to any counterspell. So I don't know if that's really a meaningful comparison. It's like any counterspell 1-for-1 is Rekindling Phoenix. Does this deck have good win rates in the metagame? Well, we don't have data like that in Magic. So Magic has really incomplete data sets, so anybody that tells you they have like the win rates of decks, they're basically just lying to you, or they don't understand the data that they're looking at. I will say this deck's felt incredibly clunky the times we've played it. I've been unimpressed by it. I was watching Wyatt Darby play it last night too, and it seemed really clunky and awkward while he was playing it too.
You show remorse. I'll trust me. I have a plan.
Well, the proper way to off yourself is cast Dreadhorde to grab everything from the yards. Yeah. Ended the game in the wrong way. Yeah, I agree. The people definitely overstate how good 3-mana Teferi is against counter spells. Especially against decks that can pressure him. Like, people are talking about 3-mana Teferi just like locking out the Thief deck last game, and like not only do you not always draw it, but they can just attack it a certain amount of the time when you draw it as well. Well, the Planeswalkers we played on Tuesday were identical to the Planeswalker in this deck, Mr. Photon, so unless you're talking about the Sultai configuration, which I'd argue that deck was just a fundamentally different deck. Hey, No Spoon, thanks for the 8 months. Welcome back, I appreciate it. I'm gonna do this turn because it plays around Syncopate. Okay. Hey, one to Bozin. Thank you for the 4 months of support. Welcome back. Probably should have shocked this in. I dragged it up, but I kind of was gonna drag it back down. I should have shocked this in. I got me, dude. There was one singleton Kaya, Mr. Photon, which I cut for an extra Paradise Druid. I don't know that adding more 4-mana Planeswalkers that are difficult to cast off my barely white splash is like gonna solve problems that I've had so far with this deck. Hey, Tanning, good morning.
Honor to meet you.
Oh, you know what? I should have left the black up because I want to name Duress with this. Should have left Watery Grave up. Swing and a miss. Yeah, exactly, Crazy. And in fact, one of the things you'll notice in my green-red Sarkhan list is my green-red Sarkhan list has 4 lightning strikes in the main, so you have lots of ways to keep Wildgrowth Walker off the table. Between like the lava coils out of the board and the Tibalts and the, you have a lot of good ways to play through.
Right on schedule.
This deck is exceptionally clunky, Shadowhawk. Now, I don't want to self-mill with Tamiyo because, one, I don't want to get back that much more and then die to a lightning strike out of them. And 2, I want to down-tick my Tamiyo and pick the Command the Dreadhorde back up that turn, I think. That's what I am ideally looking to do. And, like, I've heard people talk about this deck, like, having an okay aggro matchup, but, like, as someone who's played a lot against red decks with Wildgrowth Walker decks, like, good red players don't just get dunked on by 4 Wildgrowth Walkers. Like, their average draw beats Wildgrowth Walker, especially if they're playing Timbalts and they're 75. I'm going to keep this hand. My opponent's deck's kind of slow and clunky, so I think just, like, having Jadelight to start here is more than enough. Hey, thanks for the 32 months, Tron Dragon. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Hey, Automatic. Thank you for the very generous tier 2 resub. Remember to take a peek at the deck queue and let me know what you'd like to bump up this month with that. Thanks for keeping me around. Sounds good, Rage Harder. Will do. If you have anything else you'd like to swap it out for, I'd be happy to let you do that. Otherwise, I'm okay replacing it myself. Sounds good, Rage. We're actually going to get back to that one again today. Towards Simic Monsters. Sounds good, Odo. I think I just keep jamming Tamiyos here. I think if I hadn't drawn a third one...
Every story is an opportunity for new data.
I just, like, buy this other Tamiyo back, right? Just, like, pick my witness back up. And, like, if they shock this, it's like, okay, you killed my thing, but, like, it drew another card already. So, like, as long as my opponent doesn't have pressure in play, this is, like, a winning sequence for me. Now, if my opponent gets a Planeswalker of their own out or some kind of creature, that dynamic changes. This is a commence the end game, huh? Yeah, definitely, Medic. Now, if they have Endgame into Clarion here, I'm going to be really sad. Yeah, maybe plussing so we could get a land the following turn would be good. Because, like, and this is, again, like I said, looping the Tamiyos was good in the event my opponent didn't have anything. But now that they have this 5/5 in play, suddenly, like, I'm going to be dying with cards in my hand, which makes my play a lot worse for me. So we're hoping they don't have another counterspell here, and this Golgari Queen can resolve and kill this 5/5. Digging for a land here. Like, based on how many counterspells we saw in the first game, I'd be pretty surprised if this resolved. Quench. Yeah, wow. I'm going to leave this back as a chump blocker, just so I can give myself the most chances to resolve a Vraska. You see like a lightning strike or a lava coil here? Nope, just another insight. Generally speaking, you want to chump block before they're attacking for lethal. Yeah, it looks like their plan is just never let them resolve. Doing a pretty good job of it. I mean, like, we're playing 3-mana Teferi and Narset, and they're just, like, keeping them off the board. Yep, yeah, the beacon does give us one extra draw step, potentially. I wonder if they have another commence the end game here, because they have 6 mana. Maybe they're just like, gonna let us kill this and then commence and draw, make another 5/5.
I'm good at what I do.
I mean, their deck list just looks like counter spells, lightning strike, shock, and commence the end game, right? We've played 3 games, those are the only cards we've seen. Hey, Lulum, thank you for the 10-month resub. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna throw away one more ranked match playing this deck, but this deck, yeah, I'm glad we played this again, because I was almost gonna get art done for this one to be on my website. This really doesn't feel, it feels incredibly clunky and awkward. Yeah, the last opponent's deck was just kind of like the type of deck where once you fall behind, you never catch back up again. But if you get, especially if you can win die rolls and be on the play, like once you can keep the board clear, you probably do very well. Did I see it on my end? I thought yours came up yesterday, Gorks. I don't think I saw one from you today. I don't remember though. Yeah, decks that get under them probably give my opponent a hard time. Like, counter spells are notably exceptionally good against our deck. If we don't have Time Raveler in play, our deck kind of gets stuffed by counter spells. Like, our deck is just full of incredibly expensive and clunky cards, which makes us very susceptible to people just, like, saying no a bunch. Yeah, exactly. We were never able to generate a double spell turn, which was basically the death of us. Hey, look, a third matchup that seems bad for us. Yeah, I agree, Bob. It seems like a lot of people are just like they're taking for granted that Time Raveler is in the format making counterspells a little bit worse, so people just aren't playing them. Hey, they missed a land drop. That's good for us. You miss Nexus decks? You're a monster. You're a monster. Am I getting blinked? Sure. Yeah, I agree, Geodude. 10 out of 10. Clunky decks like this really make me appreciate playing the efficient 1 or 2 color aggro deck.
Here goes nothing.
I hope Wizards publishes the deck lists that go 8-1 and 8-0 in the event on Saturday. It would be nice to get a little bit of data out of Magic Arena.
I am not making this up as I go.
Just gonna name Branchwalker here.
Seek and find.
It's a 4 of I wouldn't mind drawing. The Sultai Diviner deck seemed fine. It has a lot of good tools to allow it to keep up with aggro while also having cards that allow it to generate reasonable card advantage. Black-Red Aristocrats and Green-Red Sorkin are the two decks that I like playing most right now. I should probably just, like, go Branchwalker Wildgrowth Walker here, huh? Puts lethal into play, and they can't fog us while this is out. I don't have a Narset in my main deck. I'm gonna plus and name Branchwalker again here. Thanks, Emmanuel. Because I would like to put lethal in play through a mount spell. So now they can blast zone up to 2 here, which I assume is what we're gonna see. Yep. I don't know, Sir Helios. On Arena, you can only name standard legal cards. In paper, I'm not sure. Yeah, I agree, Dunk Daddy. And I agree with that assessment, and I'm not sure that there's enough mid-range decks in the format to mean that it's worth playing. Yeah, I get to Dreadhorde back a 5-mana Teferi. And 5-mana Teferi will tuck in this Wilderness Reclamation. I mean, like, do you disagree with the sentiment, Street Kings, that this deck is good against mid-range and kind of bad against control and aggro? And why, from a theory or in practice standpoint, what are you seeing that makes you disagree with that statement? Again, like, I had a bunch of people do this the other day, too. They got upset that I talked about the Black-Red Aristocrats deck, or the Black-White Aristocrats deck feeling worse than the Black-Red, and people are like, you're just being results-based from the fact that you had a couple of bad matches. Like, well, we're not talking about the specific matches that I'm playing. We're talking about, from a theory standpoint, generically, how the deck feels in the format. Like, how it, in theory, lines up against the different things that people are doing. And instead of just saying, you're being results-based, I like this deck, blah, engage in a discussion. Talk about why you think it's good against aggro. Why you think it can be successful against control decks full of counterspells if you don't have Teferi out.
This might be a bad idea.
This deck's full of really expensive cards that has an incredibly hard time double spelling. So sure, the Explore package is good against aggro when it lives and when you draw it, but all of the good aggro decks in this format right now have a lot of really efficient removal in them, whether it be Lightning Strike or Wizard's Lightning or other ways to take Wildgrowth Walker off the table. So like, there's gonna be games where you don't draw, your card that matters, And then there's going to be other games where there's going to be games where you don't draw the card that matters, and then there's going to be other games where you do draw it and they kill it.
I am not going to sit this way.
And again, I'm not trying to tell you if you like this deck, stop playing it. Magic's a game you should be playing for fun. It's just, when we talk about decks here on stream, we want to be analytical and talk about what makes them good or bad and why it makes them good or bad. And I know it's sad for a deck that you really like playing to feel like it's not in a bad spot overall, but that's just kind of how Magic goes. Like, the formats change and move around and things aren't always favorable for decks that you like playing. I almost don't want to plus Tamiyo. We're milling ourselves out probably isn't realistic, right? Now we get Jadelight Ranger here. Gain a bunch of life.
Let me aid your research.
You think it's good against Nexus post board with Narset, Brontodon, and Teferi? Okay, that's fair. I could see that. And you see how when Dude Light's disagreeing with me there, they're bringing up specific points and talking about this is why I think you're wrong? Like, the whys and that discussion of this is how things end up working out, that's the most important part to any meaningful engagement. I'm not sitting here when I'm talking about decks being good or bad saying this deck is bad because we lost. In fact, you hear me say regularly on the stream when people ask about win rates, I say the win rate doesn't matter. Let's talk about the details. So again, when I'm talking about a deck that I say I don't think this deck feels competitive or it feels bad in these spots, you don't hear me saying we lost this match so it's bad. I'm talking generically about how things line up and how things work. Sure, Gork, sounds good. Alright, Duress, Narset, Brontodon, all of those seem good. Massacre Girl seems bad. Command the Dreadhorde's not good here, right? Is this a matchup where I just, like, cut this card? Or do I cut some of it? I only play decks from 5-0 lists, so I know they don't have any bad matchups. Is Golgari Queen not good enough? I need 3 more cuts here. She kills Search for Azcanta, but is that kind of narrow? Tamiyo could be slow. I could see that. I cut Tamiyo. Okay, yeah, I don't mind that. Leave a third Command the Dreadhorde in. Because, like, getting our pressure back after they blast zone us doesn't seem unreasonable. Harpooner just like a random 3-2 that attacks. I could also see that being fine. I want to do this. Let's do this. I think Elderspell's a little bit too reactive. I think I'd rather just have, like, more pressure to attack. Yeah, Elderspell hits their Tamiyo. And that's another thing, too, like, what do we do in the face of their creature plan? Like, I have Teferi, but, like, our deck in general is kind of weak to their creature plan, right? Someone earlier had mentioned playing Assassin's Trophy, which that would be a card that would be good because it's not super weak to their creature plan. Yeah, I think against mid-range and control decks that don't have counter magic, this deck's very reasonable, Dunk Daddy. But like, for instance, we just got stuffed in a box by a Jeskai deck that seemed really sweet that was full of counter spells. Like, if you don't have this card in play, this deck is god-awful against counter spells. It's like takes a very long time to double spell. How do we feel about Time Raveler, bounce your ass, can't Duress you?
Trust me. You'll thank me later. That's more like it.
Yeah, I could definitely see this deck sitting in a position similar to like, well, what this deck is doing is like, okay, but it's not so good that when people have it on their radar that it's still really powerful. And there's that Biogenic Ooze that we talked about a minute ago, that we're like, okay, how do we beat this card? Well, they don't guaranteed have Ooze in 2 turns. They're gonna get a couple of draw steps here, but they could brick on their second green. We're hoping to find a 5-mana Teferi to tuck this Ooze in next turn. Assuming they hit the green source here. If they miss on the green source, we might just see them crack this Blast Zone. Oh, they're just cranking Blast Zone. They're cranking Blast Zone up to 3 here. I guess that makes sense.
Open mind.
Duress is not a terrible hit. Alrighty then.
I'll protect you.
Oh, I could draw step Duress. That's true. So, the reason why I didn't draw step Duress there is because I wanted to leave myself the ability to pick the Duress back up. I think I'm digging for Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Like, why do I care about Duressing them right now? They have 3 Nexus of Fates in their hand. Like, why is Duressing good? Can anyone explain? And like, they're probably blowing up this Blast Zone. Which puts them even further from casting their 7-mana spell. I'm playing Red Green Sarkin or the Black Red Aristocrats deck tomorrow. One of the two. Just cast Cabal Therapy. That card be busted right now. Alright, we drew another Duress. I think I just plus for Teferi again.
To the library.
Let's try this.
Yeah, we're definitely draw stepping Duress this time through.
No time for a break.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be able to cast Nexus next turn, right? Stop is a good call. Yeah, Red Green Sarkin plays a bunch of Scraggin. Okay, so you can find my current deck list for that on my website and in the deck queue. So I assume this is blowing up. Hey, Bobs, thanks for the brand new Prime support. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday and a great start to your weekend.
You just let me know if you're up.
Still have much
two.
to learn.
Alright, so even though Teferi's dead, his effect is still on, so I get to Duress here during their draw step. Get to take their Wilderness Reclamation here, which is pretty key. So Teferi lets us do our thing there. And like, we're actually in a pretty, I can see Dudelight's assessment of this matchup actually being okay. Because like, now I get to tuck this in, and then I get to have Tamiyo pick 3 mana Teferi up, who's gonna go ahead and bounce this token here.
Learned much from my ancestors.
No longer stand by and watch. Oh, I've done the hero thing before.
Like the phases of the moon, life waxes and wanes. Seek and find.
Ha! Got there. This is lethal. And I had one of these in my graveyard, so I didn't even have to draw this, right? Because there was one in my graveyard. And they can't do anything here. I mean, they didn't have any other plays, right? They were just dead. Four-color Dreadhorde Trial of the Ancestors 2.0, and I love it. It is kind of similar to that, too. You know, I think I'm kind of off of this one for the rest of the day. This deck's doing kind of neat things, and like when all of its parts kind of hum together, it's definitely got something really cohesive going on. I'm just not sure that like what this deck is doing ultimately is powerful enough or consistent enough to really keep up while it's on people's radars. I think a lot of this deck's success came from the fact that like a lot of people didn't really know what it was doing, and like the fact that like there weren't people like thinking about Tocatli Honor Guards and thinking about things like Tibalt, but now like the fact that like this is on people's radar and they go, oh, what are my last sideboard slots? Well, let's play a card like Tibalt or Tocatli Honor Guard that's good here and also good in other places. I think that hurts this archetype a lot. So I think this is probably standard kind of is a cyclical format where like some things get popular and then they ebb out as people like start to care about them. So I definitely think if you love this deck, it's probably more than reasonable to keep playing. But I think like if you're looking at the format from a purely play to win standpoint, I don't think this would be something that I would recommend. That dude Tom, thank you very much for the brand new tier 1 sub. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for keeping me around. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday and a good start to your weekend.